Recently, we've had a run-in with a thief over at our new yard, and I just want to tell you guys a little bit how that unfolded and how we handled the situation. I just so happened to be at that yard on the day when the customer was bringing in that material, and he was bringing in brand new copper tubing that had been cut down into little pieces and brass valves that had been cut in half. And it seemed a little odd that it was all brand new material, so I sort of questioned the customer a little bit about where he came about the material and how he got a hold of it. But he claimed to have been a contractor and he rebuilds or refurbished apartment buildings, and this was all just leftover stuff off of a job. I still kind of felt that that was a little bit odd, because why would you cut brand new material into pieces where it's unusable? So I sort of just warned him, like, hey man, we take pictures of all this material and this stuff will be available to the police if they come looking. And he played it cool, said no big deal, it's no problem at all, and still sold the material just like anyone else would. And it still didn't sit right with me, so I kind of warned the office staff that, hey, if somebody comes looking for copper and brass, we might just want to keep this guy in mind. And so the total amount for that material that he brought in was about $1,800 worth of scrap. And of course, anytime you have copper, we automatically pay with a check. But the next day, this customer came back in claiming to have lost the check and asking us to reissue it. But before we reissue any check, we always make sure that it hadn't already been cashed, and if it hasn't, we'll put a stop payment on it before we reissue a new one. Well, come to find out, the check had already been cashed and he was asking for a new one. But then, of course, he came up with some elaborate story about how his brother must have stolen the check and he cashed it and they got in a car wreck and all this crazy stuff. But we basically told him we weren't going to reissue the check because it's already been cashed, and that was the end of that. But now he's really on our radar because it's two sketchy incidents with the same customer, and he thinks that he's being slick, but he's really not. So fast forward a couple weeks and we have a local business come in and say that somebody had broken into their fence and got behind one of their buildings and stole some aluminum angle. And our first go-to is to always tell customers to make a police report, and the police will contact us directly and we'll work with them. But in this scenario, that business owner had said that he has already contacted the police and they're having a really tough time tracking down who might have stolen that material. But he did have a picture of the truck from their security camera, and so we went through all of our old tickets to try to find a similar truck or a similar type material. And what do you know it, that truck ended up being a match to the sketchy guy that brought in the stolen copper and the stolen brass. And so we called that business back and told them that we were pretty sure we knew exactly who was stealing their material, and we were more than happy to try to work with them to get it resolved, because at the end of the day, we do not want stolen material in any way, shape, or form. And so after getting back in touch with that business, they got the police on the line, and the police came down and they took all of our information and got all of the photographs that we had saved and all the vehicle information, a copy of his ID, all of that good stuff. And it definitely ended up being the guy that was stealing from their business. And so after we found that out, we kind of gave the cops a heads up. Hey, we didn't have a very good feeling about this guy, told him some of the stories about the check fraud he was trying to pull and the other things, and also gave him a warning and pictures of the material that he had brought in and sold to us. After this whole scenario sort of played out and the local police department was able to further investigate it, they called us back to really thank us for looking out and trying to help them, because they were not getting any other leads from anywhere else. And so ultimately they were able to hold that guy accountable for stealing that material, and unfortunately they figure that he probably had done this to many other businesses, and there'll probably be future cases that come up as people start to discover their things are missing. But I really only share this story with you guys so you can kind of understand from our perspective how much we really don't want stolen material and how we will go out of our way to help prevent that from happening.